I want to begin with a question. When was the last time someone extended trust to you and you knew in that moment it still had to be earned? It was 2015. I had just taken on the role of head of operations at a group CSR program of a salt to software global conglomerate, which also happens to be India's one of the leading skill development organization, one of the most meaningful missions I had ever been part of. Our mission was personal and it was bold. Identify underprivileged youth from the most deprived backgrounds across India, train them for few months in world-class classroom and industry design lab, help them land a real dignified job, and help them stay and thrive for at least 1 year. The target, 1 million youth by 2020. When we arrived in Aligarh for our first batch, everything was ready. State-of-the-art classrooms, industry design curriculum, wonderful labs, trained faculty, job placements lined up, and the price to the youth completely free. It was sponsored by various corporates, and yet the enrollments were not what we had hoped for. We held door-to-door mobilization events, road shows, every street, town square. We spoke with full conviction. Yes, completely free, a real job at the end. Just show up and your life changes. They listened, went home, did not enroll. We were heartbroken. That's when we stopped trying to convince and started trying to understand. Someone on my team had a brilliant idea. Let's just go play cricket with them. No door-to-door mobilization, no agenda. A bat, a ball, some stumps. We showed up. First afternoon, a few overs. Second afternoon, a few more. Third day, the young men arrived before us. Slowly, between the innings and laughter, the real conversation began. They talked about local sarpanch, programs that had come before with big promises and delivered nothing. They thought it's only proof that people like them were not meant to move forward. That's when I understood. The free course was not the issue. We had arrived carrying something we had not yet earned, their trust. We hadn't inherited their welcome. We had inherited their skepticism. Because trust for them had been broken long before even we arrived. By people who looked exactly like us, who spoke words and sounded exactly like ours. So we found the real influencers in the community, made one promise we knew we could keep, and kept it. Slowly, one conversation, one cricket match at a time, the enrollment began to move. Not because we had a better sales pitch or convincing power, but because we had finally earned the right to be believed. Welcome to T, Trust, the leadership multiplier. Because trust has so many dimensions, I have split this into 2 episodes. The first one, we explore trust from inside out, beginning with who you are, then widening to how you build trust in every direction around you. Part 1, Ancient Wisdom on Trust. Before we bring in framework, research, and corporate stories, I want to start with something older, much older. In the Ramayana, Lord Rama is called Maryada Purushottama, the ideal person. Not because he was most powerful, not because he knew many mantras, not because he always won, but because his every action was rooted in dharma, righteousness. And that dharma inspired absolute unconditional trust. Hanuman's loyalty to Rama was not compliance. It was not contractual. It was trust that had been earned through consistency of character, clarity of purpose, and certainty that Rama's intentions were always for others, never for himself. Hanuman crossed an ocean, entered an enemy kingdom alone, and faced death. Not because he was ordered to, but because he trusted completely in the one he served. That is what complete trust does. It releases capability that no incentive system can replicate. In the Mahabharata, we see a different and more sobering truth. Yudhishthira was known across the land not just for his righteousness but for the quality of the society around him. Bhishma once observed that even if you didn't know where Yudhishthira was living, you could find him by looking for the land where people flourished and the community thrived. A leader's trustworthiness is visible, not in their declaration, but in the condition of those they lead. And then there is Karna, a leader of extraordinary capability, loyalty, generosity, and so on, who gave away his divine armor even when he knew it would cost him his life. Karna's tragedy was not lack of trustworthiness. It was that trust was withheld from him because of the circumstances of his birth. His story asks a question every leader should sit with. Who in your organization is capable of extraordinary things but has never been given the trust to try? Ramayana and Mahabharata are not just stories. They are ancient laboratories for studying what trust builds, what mistrust destroys, and what happens to organization and society when leaders hold trust as their highest value. Everything the modern framework tells us, the great epics already knew. Part 2, the emotional bank account. Stephen Covey's foundational insight from the 7 habits of highly effective people. Before his son M.R. Covey wrote about the speed of trust, Stephen R. Covey, the father, gave us metaphor that remains one of the most powerful tools in the leadership today. In the 7 habits of highly effective people, Covey introduced the concept of emotional bank account. The idea is straightforward. With every person in your life, there is an emotional bank account. You make deposits, which is act of kindness, kept promises, genuine understanding, honesty, care, etc. And you make withdrawals, discourtesy, broken commitments, dismissiveness, disrespect, and so on. The balance in that account determines what is possible in the relationship. Stephen Covey in his book talks about 6 key deposits one could make. Number 1, understanding the individual. Seek first to understand the other person. What matters to them? Empathetic listening is one of the most powerful deposits you can make. Number 2, attending to little things. Small acts of kindness and courtesy matter enormously. Little discourtesies, small unkindness, and minor disrespect make large withdrawal. Number 3, keeping commitments. Keeping a promise is a major deposit. Breaking one is a major withdrawal because it tells people they cannot predict you. Number 4, clarifying expectations. Almost all relationship difficulties are rooted in conflicting or ambiguous expectations. Clarity upfront is a deposit. Assumed expectation lead to misunderstanding and withdrawal. Number 5, showing personal integrity. Integrity generates trust. Treating everyone by the same set of principles, including those not in the room, builds a deep emotional bank account across your entire organization. Number 6, apologizing sincerely when you make a withdrawal. Sincere apologies make deposits, but insincere or repeated apologies make withdrawal. They reveal a pattern, not a moment. Covey observes that when the emotional bank account balance is high, communication is easy, mistakes are forgiven quickly, and relationship is resilient. When the balance is low, everything becomes guarded, defensive, and labored. In Aligarh, the community's emotional bank account with every organization that had ever come before us was deeply in deficit. Not through anything we had done, but through the accumulated withdrawals of every broken promise before ours. We had to make deposits to an account that started in the red. The cause of almost all relationship difficulties is rooted in conflicting or ambiguous expectations. That line from Covey lands differently when you have stood in the streets during mobilization events. trying to convince youth to enroll in something free. Part 3, trust equation from the trusted advisor. David Meister, Charles Green and Galford in the trusted advisor, they offer an equation that makes trust visible and measurable. Clients don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. The authors offer a good equation called trust equation or trustworthiness equation. Credibility plus reliability plus intimacy divided by self-orientation. Credibility is whether people believe what you say. Reliability is whether you do what you say. And intimacy is whether people feel genuinely safe with you. And self-orientation, the denominator, is a silent variable that undermines all the three above the moment it rises. The instant people sense your agenda matters more than theirs, trust drops. In Aligarh, we had credibility, we lacked intimacy, and our self-orientation was too high in those first few weeks. We had focused on our own enrollment numbers, our targets, our mission timeline, etc. The moment we put down the brochures and picked up the cricket bat, our self-orientation shifted and trust became possible. Now pause and think. 5 key stakeholders. Write down their names on a piece of paper. Pause this video if you have to. Rate these stakeholders one by one on credibility, reliability and intimacy. Each from 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being high. Then rate his or her self-orientation. Now calculate C plus R plus I divided by S. The score sits anywhere between 0.3 to 30. Imagine you are now engaging a neutral person to non-judgmentally ask these stakeholders whose names you have written. How would you rate your name? Now ask, if that stakeholder were rating you right now, what number she or he would give you? On each of these parameters, C, R, I and S, would the numbers match yours? The gap is where your development begins. Part 4, the 8 pillars of trust. David Horsager in The Trusted Leader gives the most complete practical architecture for building trust as an organizational practice rather than a personal trait. He identifies 8 pillars and notes that a trustworthy person and a trustworthy organization are not the same thing. You can have one without the other. Here are 8 pillars in Horsager's sequence. Each one a distinct dimension of trust you can measure, develop and strengthen. Let's look at each pillar and what it means for you as a leader. Number 1, clarity. Be crystal clear in your words, expectations and direction. People trust what they can see and understand. Vagueness erodes trust faster than incompetence. Number 2, compassion. Show that you genuinely care about people, their interest, not just their output. People trust leaders who put others first and care for them. Point 3, or pillar 3, character. Do the right thing even when it is difficult. Character is doing what you say, holding a strong moral compass and choosing integrity when no one is even watching. Pillar number 4, competency. Horsager's research show that the number 1 reason employees give for trusting a leader is competency. Keep learning every single day. Number 5, commitment. Keep your promises, especially when it is hard. Real commitment is revealed under pressure, not when conditions are favorable. Pillar number 6, connection. Build genuine person-to-person relationship. Trust lives in space between people. Leadership done alone is leadership done wrong. Pillar number 7, contribution. Deliver results. Care, character and commitment matter, but so does execution. Be a caring person of high character who also gets things done. Pillar number 8, consistency. The king of all pillars. Trust is never static. Every action either builds or erodes trust. 2 things I want to draw your attention to. First, consistency is pillar 8, but Horsager calls it the king of all pillars. Why last? Because it governs all other pillars. Character, once in a while, is not character. Compassion, only when convenient, is not compassion. Consistency is what makes every other pillar real rather than occasional. Second, Horsager's research show that Competency is the number one reason employees give for trusting a leader. No warmth, not relationship, competency. People need to believe you know what you are doing before they will follow you into uncertain territory. Every action you take either increases or decreases trust. There is nothing neutral. In Aligarh, the cricket matches addressed pillars 2, 6 and 8 simultaneously. Compassion, connection and the beginning of consistency. That's why they worked, where the road shows hadn't. Part 5. Trust Curve. Sidal Neely, in Remote Work Revolution, distinguishes between two types of trust that develop at different speeds and through different means: cognitive trust and emotional trust. Cognitive trust is built with the head. It grows from evidence of competence and reliability, track record, qualification, consistent delivery, etc. In the new relationship and professional setting, this is usually where trust begins. Emotional trust is built with the heart. It grows from genuine care and shared experience. It develops more slowly, requires more vulnerability, more authentic contact. It is a trust that makes people go beyond what is required. Neely's insight is that in distributed and remote teams, cognitive trust can develop quickly. You see someone's work, you assess their competence. But emotional trust, the feeling that someone genuinely has your back, takes much longer to develop without deliberate investment. In Aligarh, we had cognitive trust signals from day one, the brand, the curriculum, the credentials, but we didn't have the emotional trust. Cricket matches built that, not because cricket is a strategy, because it was an act of genuine, unagendaed presence. It was Covey's emotional bank account in action. Part number 6. Trust in every direction. The Aligarh story is about trust with an external stakeholder, but the same dynamics play out in every direction of your professional life. And each direction requires something slightly different. With your team, the people who report to you, do they trust you will fight for them, not just manage them? Is your feedback genuinely useful or merely evaluative? Do they believe their career matters to you, not just their output? Have you extended trust to them, or are you waiting for them to prove themselves first? With your peers, other leaders at your level, do you share credit rather than compete for it? Are you honest in the room, or do you agree and then disagree in the corridor? With your manager, upward trust. Do they trust you to surface problem early, not hide them? Can you be counted on to execute with autonomy? With customers, vendors and external partners, does your word mean your commitment? Do you tell them the difficult truth, not just the comfortable one? Horsager makes a point worth sitting with. A trustworthy person and a trustworthy organization are not the same thing. You can be deeply trusted by your team and perceived as untrustworthy by peers, because different relationships are at different points on the trust curve and requires different pillars to be strengthened. Part number 7. Your experiment this week. Choose one relationship in one direction, downward, lateral, upward or external. Calculate your trust equation score for that person. Identify which of the 8 pillars feels weakest in that relationship right now. Ask yourself, am I in emotional bank account credit or deficit with that person? Choose one specific action this week to make a deposit. Not a plan, one action, one relationship this week. Because trust is not built in grand gestures. It is built in small ones consistently, over time, one keystroke at a time. Part 8. Recommended reading. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. The original emotional bank account and why character-based trust, not technique, is the only foundation that lasts. A timeless classic that belongs on every leader's shelf. Then I would highly recommend The Trusted Advisor by David Meister, Charles Green and Robert Galford. This is a source for trust equation, the most analytical and precise framework for understanding what makes someone truly trusted, essential for anyone in leadership, consulting or coaching. Trusted Leader, 8 Pillars that Drive Result by David Horsager. the most practical framework for making trust a measurable, buildable, organizational practice rather than a feeling. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. Absence of trust is the first and foremost foundational dysfunction. This fable-based leadership classic shows how absence of trust cascades into conflict avoidance, lack of commitment and poor result. Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. Vulnerability-based trust, psychological safety and why bravest leaders are the most trusted one. Brown's research makes the case that armor is the enemy of trustworthiness. Every key on the keyboard of leadership unlocks a different capability. Q. Question assumptions. W. Evolve beyond what got you here. E. Show up with presence. R. Reframe your reality. T. Trust, the leadership multiplier. In Aligarh, a cricket bat taught me that trust lives in the moments before agenda. In Ramayana, Hanuman's loyalty shows that what is possible when trust is complete. In Covey's emotional bank account, we find daily practice. In Horsager's 8 pillars, we find the architecture. Trust is not a feeling you wait for. It is a practice you build deliberately, consistently, and in every direction. In our next episode, we go deeper into the conversation where trust is won or lost. The neuroscience that explains why trust forms before you even finish your first sentence, and what it means to build trust when people you lead may never share a room. They may be a hybrid or a virtual team. Stay with us. The keyboard isn't finished yet.